This is the thing, most of the answers that you're looking for, you already have them within yourself, or you know, like your heart knows how to get to that answer the quickest. And the reason that we oftentimes sit around and procrastinate on it and act as if we don't know how to get to our goal, when in reality we actually do, is because of fear, right? We're looking for an excuse for someone or something to talk us out of it. If you are in that mentality where you feel like you're just not safe, the feeling of being unsafe, let's face it, it's a collective wound for most women. We try to mask it, and society also teaches us to mask it by being super masculine and go-getter, and you know, you gotta outwork, outshine your male peers in the industry, you gotta fight like a man to overcome like the gender wage gap, all of this stuff. When in reality, you don't have to play the same game as the men play. It's a different set of rules. You are divinely, like naturally equipped from the womb to play it using all the tools that you've been given to as your birthright from your divine feminine wheelhouse. Does that make sense? Like, you already have whatever it takes inside you to succeed and to be cunning, and obviously to do it, you know, with a sense of morality and ethics that makes sense for you. The first step is to decondition yourself and deprogram yourself from what the world has brainwashed us into thinking that we should do. You really need to question every piece of advice that you've ever gotten. I'm not saying to throw everything out the window. There are a lot of good pieces of advice that have been transmitted down to us from, you know, our mothers and our grandmothers, that in its original form, that advice made sense and it held a lot of potency and it was aligned with like our natural feminine gifts. But along the way, there are forces and people, like bad actors with self-interest at heart, that twist those. Okay, so from generation to generation, a lot of those lessons get twisted to fit a different narrative, to where it's not really benefiting you, it's actually benefiting that different group that mixed up the narrative. Does this make sense? My natural intuition about this has always been very, very strong ever since I was young. I was talking about how the answers are always within us, right? And then we are the ones that psych ourselves out or try to convince ourselves that we don't know the answer, we don't know how to get to the answer, when in actuality we do. Like, all you have to do is take a second and do some deep breathing, check in with your heart. You know, you can reassure yourself too, because sometimes we need reassurance, like, hey, it's okay to come out and say that, like, it's okay to admit that you know what to do. Just don't be afraid, no one's judging you. I think that's the underlying message I'm trying to get to. As women especially, we have so much guilt conditioning that has been piled on top of us since birth, that a lot of times just taking a moment to stop and say, hey, nobody's judging you, you're not doing anything wrong, right? Like, all you're doing at this stage, if you're just trying to figure out information, that's called brainstorming, right? And then you can decide later whether or not you want to take certain courses of action based on ethics, which is a whole other minefield of a topic. But so many of us have been conditioned so deeply that we think that we're doing something wrong by even thinking something outside of the norm of what we've been taught is ethical, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, hello, 1984 George Orwell, anyone? I forget the term for it. It's like double think, right? You're not allowed to think certain things. That's literally the reality that us as women have to contend with. Obviously men go through this too, like everyone has their feminine and masculine sides, but you'd be surprised if you gave yourself the permission to just think like a man. Not saying that you have to take actions like a man, not saying that you have to break your own ethical codes, but if you just give your permission to think like a man, you'd be surprised how quickly that dissolves the perceived wall between yourself and the solution to whatever your problem is.